So I'm going to start with a slip knot loop on the hook, and I'm going to chain 2. Then I'm going to I'm not actually going to count this chain 2 as any stitch, not for a half double or a half UK treble anyway, just because it kinds to vanish anyway after we've made our first stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go into the top loop, the back loop, the top loop of this first chain, and also importantly pick up the back ridge of the chain. Then you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're basically going to chain 1, but only chaining off that first loop on the hook. Then you're going to yarn over and finish off the half double or half UK treble by drawing through all 3 loops. So what we've got there is 1 half double foundation stitch which is lying horizontally. We're used to crocheting vertically like this, but for a foundation row of foundation stitches, you are going to be stacking the stitches horizontally, so that's a good way to visualize what's going on. So I always say that there are there's 4 steps to making this foundation stitch. The first step is the yarn over, which is preparing for the stitch. The second step is to attach the base of the stitch to the base of the previous stitch you just made, which was that chain 1 you did on this left hand side. So you can see the chain 1 there, front loop, back loop. You're literally going to put the hook straight through the middle of that chain and then pick up the back ridge of the chain as well, and then pull up a loop. So pull that loop level with the rest of your work. So you've now attached that next stitch to the base of the previous stitch that you made. Next up, you're going to yarn over and just pull off that first loop. So that is a chain 1. Okay, so you have now made, with that chain 1, you've made the base of your next half double. Now you are going to finish off this stitch, because this half double doesn't have much to it, so it's yarn over and pull off all 3 loops on the hook. So that's your second half double foundation stitch made. So can you see how we've got the top loops, front and back loops there, and then it's also got a matching bottom, which is that chain, and then obviously the post of the stitch, which is stacked horizontally on top of the previous one. Let's make another one. Prepare, find that last chain. After you've done a few, they're quite easy to see because you can see them stacking on top of each other there. Find that last chain and go through the middle of it, but make sure you catch the back ridge of the chain as well, otherwise it doesn't look right, and I'll show you why in a minute. So you're pulling up a loop, so you've attached the base of that stitch to the base of the previous stitch. Now you're going to chain 1, and you have made the base of this third stitch. So what I like to do is actually pinch that chain I've just made and then yarn over and finish off the stitch by drawing off all 3. Let's do another one. Yarn over, prep into the base of that previous chain you made, base of that previous stitch you made, which is the end chain. Pull up a loop, so you've attached that stitch. Now you're going to chain 1. You've made the base of that stitch. Now you're going to yarn over and draw off all 3. Yarn over, left loop and back ridge of the previous chain, pull up a loop, chain 1, yarn over, finish off all the stitches. See how I like to pinch that chain? That's personal preference for me. I just find it looks neater, and then once I get a good rhythm going, I find it easier to then keep my eye on that last chain that I've made. Yarn over, left loop and back ridge of that chain on the edge. Make sure you pull the loop up level with the work. Chain 1, yarn over, finish off the stitch. So here you can see these chains stacking on top of each other. So they're the chains that we made at the base of each stitch. But if you turn it to the side, where we've actually picked up the back ridge as well, and then pulled up a loop and done a chain 1, it's actually squished the back ridge and the left hand loop of that end chain together to make it look like another chain or the top of another set of stitches. So each one of these stitches should have a top front loop and back loop, and then also a front loop and back loop at the bottom. Okay, so it does look ever so slightly different. These ones on the bottom tend to be a bit tighter, and that's why you have to be careful when you're pulling up that first loop. So some common problems are curving, so especially on this, on the base of the stitches. So if you put them up vertically, then obviously this is the base, even though we're stacking them on top of each other when we're making them. If you're getting a banana shape, there's two possibilities. One is that when you pull up this loop, you are not matching the size of that with what's on this end of the hook, and most of the time I have to give that a little pull to elongate just this one loop to match the size of that one. If you literally pull up a loop and then immediately do a chain 1, this stitch on the left will always be too small, and you'll get a curving in this side. So then the second common problem with it curving on the inside is you are inadvertently decreasing. So what is quite common is yarn over, pulling up a loop from this edge chain, and then forgetting to do a chain 1 and going straight into completing the stitch, because in essence what you've done there is you've put 2 stitches into the one before last end chain, haven't you? Because you haven't actually made a base for this stitch. So that is a useful thing to do if you're deliberately wanting it to curve. And actually I do have a pattern where this is the inside sleeve of a body, inside seam of a body and sleeve of a sweater, and as we come to turn under the armpit, we do actually put multiple stitches into one, but most of the time we're not really wanting to do that. So those are for me are the two things. And also the other thing, sometimes people forget to prep for the actual stitch. So yarn over through the middle of that last chain from the previous stitch, pull up that loop nice and level, chain 1, yarn over, complete the stitch. So prep, join, level it off, make the base by making a chain 1, and finish off the stitch. Once you get quicker at it, you will probably simplify that. So in my head now I'm always just thinking chain, base, stitch, join, base, stitch, and notice how when I pull up. And also if these edge stitches are not looking neat, chances are you've only picked up one loop, or maybe you've accidentally gone round the whole chain instead of just through the middle and the back ridge. And that is something eventually you will find you'll be getting better and better at it. And even now when I'm talking, when you're first doing this stitch, because there's a lot to think about, it is quite difficult to get a nice even tension. So be prepared. I mean, I'm quite strict with myself when I'm doing this, because this is actually going to be a neck edge. I want this to be looking perfect, so I will you know, every now and then just check what it's looking like. Any bits that I feel are not neat enough, I will pull out and do again. But that's just me. Things like that bother me if they're not right. But again, you know, personal preference. And if you're doing this to make a garment, I would really highly recommend doing a little bit of practice first before you launch into the actual thing. So obviously this will be this way round, and the beauty of this is that I can work the stitches as normal through front loop and back loop, but I can also work through the bottom of it and add something on there. So this is, in my case, this is the neck edge of a sweater. I'm working top down, so this is a nice neat raw edge that I could, you know, put something in there to neaten it off or leave as is. Anyway, hope you found that useful. As usual, I've probably over explained slightly because that's what I do. I'm a crochet teacher. I have taught this technique many times, and I try to, in these videos, cover all the questions and scenarios that I've encountered with my students. So I hope you find it useful. If you give the video a go, let me know how you get on, and please do like and subscribe, and comments. I love comments and knowing how you got on with the stitch pattern. Thanks for watching.